We
You're,
don't have to stare at it.
okay.
We can like open the door and slam it and be like,
Feel that vibration? It's like a drum.
it reminds me like in Talladega Nights when she was like, oh, the vibrations! It's one of my favorite movies.
So wait, is the feed on?
The heat is on, yeah.
Heat is on.
The heat is on.
Yeah, but Instagram, basically when you start it starts telling our followers that we're live.
Right.
So it takes a minute for them to actually connect. So
I watched the thing on Kim Kardashian. They have to do this too.
She just turned 40.
I know.
See what I know about like the world?
So impressed. Your pop culture knowledge. Did you get that alert on your phone? Like
I think it was. I think it was like breaking news. Kim Kardashian turned 40.
40.
I was like, this is not what I want in my feed. It made me want to change my life decisions.
Was it on your watch when it came up and like somebody else saw it and they're like, oh.
all right, guys.
You know me,
This
keeping up with the
guy's-
Kardashians.
ahead.
Fanboy.
Fanboy. All right, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us again today with Abacus Cabinetry 101. I am Stephanie with Abacus Cabinetry, and today I have with me a very special, busy guest of mine, is my partner in crime here, Gabe Powers. He's going to be discussing with me custom cabinetry versus store-bought cabinetry. Gabe, thanks for coming. I know you're a busy guy.
Hey, thanks for having me to join the Instagram Live again. I know I'm just a filler, but
you slapper.
I'm happy to be here.
See that smile, folks? We can tell. Yeah. Gabe, you brought this back with you from, I don't know if it's, I don't know where it's from. Let's just not even guess.
Yeah.
Can we kind of break this guy down and kind of compare it to what we do here at the shop?
Sure, yeah. So what we've got here is a cabinet that's readily available from any of the box stores that you might find cabinets for sale. We find it as a good comparison to the custom cabinetry that we build here at Abacus. So we can kind of go through some of the details of what's different about these two cabinets and sort of help educate the viewers about what custom cabinetry really means.
Yeah, let's start with the front panels.
Okay, so just starting from the visual aspect of the cabinet, you'll see that on our cabinet we've got the door is a full overlaid door, and if you kind of envision the way that this meets another cabinet, the two cabinets would be right next to each other. We have a lot of control over the reveal in between the two doors or around on all four sides of the face of the cabinet, really. Comparing that to what you've got over here, we've got a cabinet that has a partial overlaid door, and what that does is it gives the builder a lot more flexibility on sort of margin of error with the door. It allows people to essentially take off-the-shelf cabinet, butt two of them next to each other, not really worry about what the spacing between the two doors is, but it'll look fine and it kind of gets the job done. Aesthetically though, it's a level of quality that you'll notice when you start walking through higher-end homes where the cabinetry, they spend a lot of time thinking about reveal lines and how they line up and making sure that they're consistent around all of the faces of the cabinetry. It's really an element where...
And just to be clear, the reveal lines is the space in between the cabinetry.
Correct.
And our typical standard, correct me if I'm wrong, is 1/8 of an inch.
It is, yeah. We always aim to be 1/8 of an inch reveal in between, whether this cabinet would be next to another cabinet or whether, if you can see over here on the left side to the viewers, you'll see we've got a nice 1/8 inch reveal there against what would be a filler. This goes against a wall. So we try to maintain that nice consistent reveal on all of those sides of the cabinetry.
Where typically this would vary from top to bottom, and
Correct.
it doesn't have that nice consistent line.
Correct, yeah. The cabinet, I mean, it's just got a giant margin here where, you know, generally you could kind of put these in and not be too worried about spending a lot of time adjusting the doors and making sure that the faces are perfectly aligned. So that's kind of the outside that you would see after it was installed. But let's open it up and just kind of take a deeper dive into the cabinet. First of all, the door itself, this has got a 1/4 inch inset panel in it. That panel, you know, you can just kind of tap it and it feels a little bit flimsy and cheap. That panel on our door, if we were doing a similar shaker profile on a door, we would do a 13/16 frame on the door and a 3/8 panel at minimum for this center panel. It feels a lot more solid. The panel is actually not floating in the same sense that this one is, where it's got some glue and some staples in it to prevent this panel from just, you can rattle this and it just feels a little
And
bit
after time and with expanding and contracting here in Colorado, I mean, you do get that rattling. Even this guy,
Right.
when you shut that guy, you can hear it rattle slightly.
Yeah.
And we try to avoid that when we're doing our doors. We have a stabilization panel in the middle, usually typically made of MDF.
Absolutely, yeah. So moving beyond the door, we definitely want to address the hinges on this particular door. These hinges are, I don't know what they are, but they're not soft close hinges. Again, you can just close the door, you can see it bounce off the cabinet, it just kind of slams closed. So if you compare that to a cabinet that we would build, it's like a nice, much more intentional closing mechanism. The door feels solid. It's just much better.
So no matter how angry you are, nobody will know.
Right, nobody will ever know. You won't wake
Yeah.
anybody up, no matter how mad you are. Moving on into the interior of the cabinet, these are only 1/2-inch shelves. All of our shelves are 3/4 at a minimum. If they have a longer span, we'll either put a shelf stiffener or even use 1-inch material. So that's kind of an element that you would notice different in a Abacus cabinet. Similarly, these shelf pins, which you probably can't see on the camera, but I'll pull one out here. This is a shelf pin that is in this cabinet. It's just a kind of a cheap plastic little.
And they do break.
They definitely break. And so that.
We like to use these metal guys.
If you compare that to what we would do on the inside of a cabinet, yeah, it's a nice stainless steel shelf pin. It's got a little groove in it. It's hard to see on the camera, I'm sure, but it's got a little groove in it to prevent shelves from actually sliding when the door is open. So it's another element of quality. Similarly, we do a lot of cabinetry that has glass shelving, and to accommodate that, what we use is we actually use a shelf pin that's actually got a rubber coating on it to prevent any rattle with the glass and actually prevent metal on glass, which we know could end in a disaster. So that's another element.
We see a lot of that in uppers and kitchens, and then also in the bar area too, when we incorporate some of the metal with the doors,
Right.
and in your pantries and wine cabinets.
Yeah, we just did a bathroom
Yeah.
that has an open cabinet with a finished panel in the back and then some glass shelving provided in it. It's a really nice look. So moving on from the interior of the cabinet, I'll just close this again. I'm going to tip the cabinet down on its back and show you sort of some of the construction of the case. And what we've got here is you can start to see beyond just the face of the cabinets. And first of all, I want to just point out that this back is a 1/4-inch back, but it's just tacked on to the back of the cabinet. Whereas if you look at ours, you can kind of see we've actually got ours inset into a groove. We've got a 3/4-inch nailer here on the back, which is provides the installer a nice secure place to hang the cabinet on the wall, versus this cabinet, which just has this 1/4-inch piece of kind of flimsy material here that you can just envision that cabinet being on the wall and hanging there and have 150 pounds worth of nice
Dishes,
china in
yeah.
it, and the fastener pulls through that back, or the back just disintegrates because it's not very solid. Similarly, the way that the entire carcass of this cabinet is assembled is using a little fastener, this micro pin, which Maria will kind of hold up to the camera so you can see it up close. But that's what's holding this whole cabinet together, is a micro pin. It's just that little tiny fastener. Now, if you compare that to what we use when we assemble our cabinets, first of all, we use 3/4-inch material on all 4 sides of the cabinet, and then we screw them together using this very large compromat screw, which Maria again will hold up and display for you. And so you can just imagine the difference between those 2 fasteners and the added strength that comes with a 7mm compromat screw, and what that means when you've got a run of base cabinets that are supporting a large. Let's talk about countertops. If you've got a 3mm countertop, which is
Marble,
right, which
Yeah.
costs you several $1,000s and weighs several hundred pounds, not to mention just the work that happens on it. You really want a cabinet to be pretty robust when it comes to strength.
Enough that you can stand on it, which happens quite a bit when we're installing cabinets on site.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
People end up standing on them. You can just envision the electrician or the plumber or somebody just using it as a perch. We prefer they didn't, but they do.
Yeah, that's not lie.
So those are some of the elements that's, to educate the viewer on cabinet construction. Some other elements that you might view if you're out shopping around for cabinets, you'll see some people use what's called dado construction. And what they do is they actually use a CNC machine and they dado sort of a post in the top of the cabinet and a receiver on the side of the cabinet, and they fit together. But they use most people, or a lot of people, end up using just a drywall screw to hold the cabinet together. And again, Maria will hold that up.
Why shouldn't you use drywall screws?
Drywall screws, thank you for asking. Drywall screws were not intended to be structural in any way, shape, or form. And that doesn't just apply to cabinetry, that applies to everywhere in your life. Don't use drywall screws if they're going to be in any sort of a structural situation at all. These are
meant for drywall.
They're meant for drywall, and they're intended to have a lot of fasteners per square foot. And if there's any sort of a shear load on them, they'll fail quite easily. So pay attention to that if you're out shopping for cabinets, just what they use to actually assemble if they're using dado construction. Another element that we use here at Abacus, and I'll just kind of touch on this real briefly, is we have a finished end cabinet, something that, again, you know, if the end of the cabinet is exposed for some reason and you're not going to...
End of a run.
And you're not going to put an applied end on it, or if there's no wall there or something, you can just envision you don't want to see these compromat screws here. So what we tend to use is a pre-glued dowel. What this is it's got the green on it is a glue that's water sensitive, so you just wet this and put it in place, and the glue will set as time goes on. Along with that, we tend to pocket screw a top and a bottom on there, just to make sure that the cabinet is secure and structurally sound.
It'll look like a finished, flat paneled end, similar to something on your door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about sizes? I mean, we work in custom cabinetry. I know some of these store-bought cabinets come in pretty standard sizes, so it's a little bit limiting on what you can actually do with your cabinetry.
Sure is, yeah. Yeah, you can imagine that these are high production cabinets, and they're done sort of without
The shelf just fell.
they're done without any input from the buyer. And so what they tried to do is they tried to standardize the sizes of the cabinetry. So you can envision, you can go to any of the box stores and purchase cabinets, and generally they're in multiples of 3, so that you can buy like a 12 or a 15 and an 18 and 21 and 24 inch cabinet. But if you think about how that fits into your home, generally your home's not built on that same standard. So an element of custom cabinetry that we love to explain to people is that you can get these cabinets. We like to stay within a 1/16 of an inch, but you can size them so that a run of cabinetry is all sized appropriately, so it fits between, say, a post on one side and a wall on the other. We try to address any of the other elements that go into the room. Specifically, in rooms that have been designed by an architect, you'll have, windows that you want to work on, or you'll have specific appliances.
Display in the void, or keep it in the parameters of the windows, or...
You've got an art wall. I mean, anything. There's a million different options for why you would want to custom size your cabinetry. So we have the ability to do that. We don't build any cabinets before somebody comes in and places an order. So we spend a lot of time producing drawings and making sure that the final look is being addressed, and that the homeowner is getting exactly what they want. And that includes symmetry on the room. That includes, like we talked about.
Lining it up with the tile, and yes, absolutely. With soffits and air vents, yep.
One more thing that I'd like to talk about on this cabinet specifically is we created a custom pull on this cabinet. And so this is a nice element where obviously this cabinet doesn't have any hardware on it, and that was intentional. The homeowner wanted a nice contemporary look, and a lot of times that can be addressed using touch to open hardware. I'm going to just inject my opinion that touch to open is not very functional. It looks fantastic, obviously, because you can eliminate all the hardware. But it's a thing where people tend to lean on the cabinet, or unintentionally cabinets end up being open. So what we did in this particular instance was we actually created a recessed pull which matches the face of the cabinet. And all it is it's a little L, and it's routed into the side of the cabinet, and it creates the ability to be able to pull the cabinet from behind the door and open the door. So it's really a nice integrated element to the cabinet that you probably are not going to find elsewhere on maybe another custom cabinet.
Yeah, we definitely do some unique options, especially when it comes to the full option instead of the touch latch, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Just to accommodate just those needs and just the function of it all.
Mhm.
And well thought out.
Yeah. So, we love this type of stuff. We love to really think through challenges. So if, a homeowner or an architect or a designer comes to us and wants to do something unique, we'll take that on generally because we like to think things through. So.
Even if you want your cabinet fronts to be alligator.
Alligator.
Yeah, alligator.
I mean, that's going to be a new one.
It's gonna be a new one. We got that one coming. For
Excited
sure.
for that one.
Ah.
What other questions do you have, Steph?
Let's see here. I think I'm set. Let's turn it over to our audience. Do we have any questions from our audience?
No, but Coastline Cabinetry says it's so nice to see another custom cabinet shop which produces fine quality cabinetry.
Hey, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Ghost. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
That's all.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can wrap things up here if we don't have any questions regarding cabinetry construction. Gabe, I certainly appreciate your time. I guess when one door closes, another one always opens.
True. Yeah. Hey, Steph.
What?
I always notice that when my kids walk by the medicine cabinet, they walk really silently and tiptoe. Do you know why that is?
No, I don't. Tell me why.
I think it's because I told them there's sleeping pills in there.
Oh. Thank you so much for joining us on Abacus Cabinetry 101. We'll hopefully see you next week at 9:15. Cross our fingers, we're going to be doing dovetail drawer boxes with St. Verrain. Hopefully. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.